And welcome in, a very happy Friday, and welcome into March. That's right, March 1st here now, 2024, and we've got a lot going on across the board here, not just tonight, but coming up this weekend. We are that much closer to madness here, March Madness, in fact. We've got 26 games on the card here tonight to kick off this March Madness. I'm Joe Raineri. We appreciate you hanging with us here on Game Time Decisions on the SportsGrid Network. Yes, 26 games. Usually we're hovering around that 13, 14 game mark on a Friday night here in college basketball, but it's a little bit different now because next week, the ASUN Conference, the Atlantic Sun Conference, will wrap up its regular season tonight, in fact, because they start their conference tournament on Monday. And then the same is also true for the Sun Belt. We've got all the Sun Belt teams in action here tonight. Their tournament begins on Tuesday. So needless to say, a lot as we head into this month of March now. A lot going on here over the next, 3 weeks, including crowning a national champion in what we all know as March Madness. So get ready for it. Also a huge night in the NBA as we're getting to that particular point in the season where teams are starting to about 20, 21 games remain on the schedule for teams. There are those that might be vying for number one seeds, as we saw somebody like the Denver Nuggets last night take down the Miami Heat, still trying to catch the Oklahoma City Thunder as well as the Minnesota Timberwolves, as we welcome in our radio audience on this Friday here, March 1st. It is Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. We appreciate you hanging with us as we're getting ready for a loaded slate in the NBA here tonight. And again, it's getting to be crunch time for some teams here, trying to make the playoffs, trying to get that coveted number one seed spot. And it's real close here across the board. Minnesota's got an interesting game coming up tonight against Sacramento, as Minnesota trying to keep pace with not only the champs, the Denver Nuggets, but also Oklahoma City, who somehow lost that game last night to the San Antonio Spurs. And, of course, with Denver winning now, that is a big three-way race there at the top of the Western Conference standings. In the Eastern Conference, not so much, as the Boston Celtics continue to just roll as many teams as they wish, but they are going to have their hands full here tonight. They will be home, but they will be taking on, and we're hoping at this particular point, they'll be taking on the Dallas Mavericks with Luka Doncic here. There is still some questions as far as whether or not he is going to be a go tonight, but the line is hovering around that -9 for the Celtics, 238 for a total. I would venture to believe that if Doncic wasn't going, we would probably have a bigger number on the board here. But Dallas has certainly turned it up now that everyone's gotten healthy there in that lineup between Kyrie and Derek Lively and, of course, Luka. They can score with the best of them here tonight. So there is, I do think, if once we get the okay with Luka Doncic there, the opportunity to jump on an over might very well be in play. You also have teams like the Golden State Warriors on a second of a back-to-back traveling north of the border here to Toronto to take on the Raptors, who are pretty much just playing out the string of games here. They are going to be in rebuild mode for the foreseeable future. But the Warriors, well, it didn't go very well for the Warriors in the early part of the season, and now they are continuing to keep their heads above water and really try to solidify their postseason opportunity. Big win against the Knicks last night. It would be another great win here tonight on short rest against those Toronto Raptors. We know Wiggins not available, not sure when he will be back, but I can tell you this, they did get Chris Paul back last night. So having Chris Paul and Klay Thompson coming off the bench makes this a very interesting Golden State Warriors team. And they'll go at it here around 7:30 this evening. A lot to break down in that game, but suffice to say the Warriors, they need to win games. They need to keep winning games. And the argument can be certainly made here that over the last month, the Warriors, certainly since they got Draymond back, have been one of the best teams in the NBA. But they're going to have to keep that up and get it done here tonight against the Toronto Raptors. And then we have something tonight in the NBA that has not happened but just 4 other times this season in the association. And that is a total in an NBA game that's less than 210 points. It's only happened 4 times this season, and we've got another one looking like we're going to get it tonight between the Portland Trail Blazers and the Memphis Grizzlies. That has already dropped down to right around the 207 mark now, 207 and a half. And quite honestly, Portland on a 9-game losing streak. Memphis dealing with injury upon injury upon injury. It has not been great for either of these two teams this year. But Memphis has certainly continued to play hard, and they have certainly paid those backers that have taken the points in those games with Memphis. They're a covering machine here tonight. They're only laying at 1.5, but we're talking about a total of under 210 points. And to think that here we are in March now, and we've only seen 4 games close under 210 points. And by the way, how did those other 4 games work? 2 went over and 2 went under, including one of the games that just Wednesday night, I believe, this week with the Grizzlies and the Minnesota Timberwolves, which I believe closed right around the 210 mark. And when the game was over, there was 211 points on the board. So if they're this low at this time of year, they're low for a reason here tonight. And the Milwaukee Bucks also. Little late game action here tonight, 10 o'clock Eastern time in Chicago, taking on the Bulls. Can the Bucks continue to win games and play defense? Are you kidding me? But they're going to be playing a different team. It's not called the Charlotte Hornets. It's called the Chicago Bulls, and I do think that's a little bit of a step up than what the Bucks have been playing recently. So we've got much more to dive into as Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's rare in this day and age of the NBA to, miss one player and have the wheels fall off.
They're kind of hanging on to one of those final play-in tournament positions in the Eastern Conference. And there are teams like the Nets and the Bulls and the Raptors who are right in that same vicinity, who now they're looking and saying, well, if the Hawks are without a player like Trae Young, and we talk about how important he is, averaging over 26 points.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Just watched the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game time decisions on this Friday as we welcome in the month of March. That's right, March 1st, which means madness is almost upon us. And it's going to get good here tonight as we've got a decent slate of games. A lot of the mid-majors getting ready to close out the regular season. They'll begin conference tournaments next week. And here to help us navigate through all the craziness is the one and only Coach James Young in the house here tonight. And, Coach, it's a fun time of year. I mean, we know madness over the next 3 weeks is going to take place, but we got conference tournaments beginning as soon as, I believe, the Atlantic Sun on Monday and the Sun Belt on Tuesday. So we are off and running in what I think is going to be an extremely interesting and, if not profitable, underdog-riddled March Madness this year, unless you think the chalk is just going to run rampant here once the tournament begins.
Good to be on with you as usual, Joe. I think this tournament has the makings of being crazier than last year. I don't know if we have a San Diego State or Florida Atlantic this year, but what I see is complete madness. I mean, you really look at it, Joe. Besides the top three seeds, and you could argue Purdue can lose to anybody. Honestly, Houston can lose because they are deep. Their offense can go really bad at the wrong time. So anybody, really, with the exception of UConn, if they don't make it to the Final Four, I'm not going to be completely stunned. So you're going to see a lot of madness, and I think it's going to be a lot of it's going to be about matchups, Joe. Who matches up against who for the tournament?
Well, we've got, we're off and running here. I believe Bowling Green, Ohio tipped off here. We got one more coming up in a couple of minutes here with Arkansas State and App State off and running. So which one of these earlier games here on the card tonight in college hoops are you focusing in on?
Well, there's a bunch of good games on tonight, and I think it really starts off pretty early on here. I like Dayton tonight. I know this is a tough spot at Loyola Chicago. I don't know if Sister Jean's around, but she'll put the heebie-jeebies on the other team here on the Flyers. But I think this is a big spot for Dayton, Joe, because I think they need to get to the tournament. Now, you can argue that will the A-10 get one or two teams? It's really going to depend on what Richmond and Dayton do. But I do like the Dayton Flyers. They if they lose, they lose Chicago. I don't think they get it as an at-large. They got to keep winning. I think they are the best team in the A-10. Give me the Dayton Flyers on the road on the money line, minus 118.
Yeah, it's not been a great last couple of weeks for Dayton. I don't know how the hell they lost to George Mason, but then they blow out Davidson, and you're going, all right, so which team is showing up here tonight? And that's really the problem with Dayton. Which one of these teams, the Dayton, the really good team, or the one that could lose to George Mason looking like they never played the game before? So it's going to be important that they get on the right track. I'm with you in this one here tonight there, Coach. What else are we looking at? A little App State maybe as they get ready to tip off here. A game that tends to be, or people think might have blowout written all over it. What do you think?
Well, this is another one, right? Because, with App State and with JMU, they don't have a lot of quality quad one wins. So they got to load up and look as impressive, let's be honest, Joe, as possible down the stretch here. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Appalachian State minus the 6.5 on the road. I think this is a spot where I think they can really get busy here, and really they really need to play well, Joe, if they want to do that. If you wanted to look at maybe taking JMU, yeah, maybe, but I was kind of honestly scared off by the spread. So I'd rather have gone this direction for an Appalachian State team that has covered against the spread their last 5 or so games. Arkansas State, they've covered a bunch of games against the spread too. Actually 9 in a row. So this is going to be a really intriguing matchup tonight between these two teams. Remember last time, App State, 10.5 point favorite, won by 12. I think it continues. Give me App State minus a point.
Yeah, and again, Arkansas State, they've already got one of the top 4 spots in the Sun Belt tournament, which begins on Tuesday. So, this is, they're already locked and loaded, ready to go for next week. A lot of teams like that tonight and tomorrow here, Coach. We're maybe peeking ahead here if they're already solidified in their conference tournaments. And the Mountain West, kind of no different. What a crazy conference this has been all year. And now we've got a Utah State team that should have, theoretically, no problem beating Air Force. They already have. But again, we've also seen Utah State throw up all over themselves at points in games they should have won.
Absolutely right. A Utah State team that can throw up all over themselves. But do they throw up all over themselves in their own building? That's the question that we have. And a team, an Air Force, Joe Scott, I've known Joe for a long time, Joe Scott, Jersey guy. I mean, they lost to Boise State by 31 3 nights ago. I know they won at New Mexico, but then if you go down the rest of the line, they're 2-8 against the spread their last 10 games. Versus a Utah State team, they think about it, has a 68-63 win at home versus San Diego State. Beat Boise State at home by nearly 20. Beat San Jose State by nearly 20 at home. Beat Fresno State by nearly 20 at home. And they're playing a team that, let's be honest, folks, is way worse than all of those in Air Force. They're a Princeton offense team that ain't Princeton. Give me Utah State minus the points.
Yeah, there's another game late night here tonight out there, Coach, with Nevada, who's hosting Fresno State. It's a monster number, too. 13.5, 14.5. It's like, do we really trust a team like Nevada who, let's face it, doesn't shoot the three at all? That's not who they are. They like to get to the foul line, and they kind of like to bleed clock a little bit, a lot of mid-range jumpers, which is all fine and dandy. They win games. But you're asking a team like that Fresno's got nothing to lose here, and you want them to win by 15 or more when all Nevada wants to do is just win the game here tonight.
I mean, think about the fact that the first time that they played, Nevada won by 15. at Fresno. So, yeah, you could look at it. Here's the thing. When you have a team like Nevada that bleeds games, you know what that means, folks? Live play. That means let the game start, let the line start to drop, and then when it gets to about 7, 8, 9, then you jump in because Nevada's the type of team, when you bleed the clock, Joe, what do? You put teams away in the second half. The problem is, Joe, sometimes you get off to slow starts, so you don't want to jump in on teams that are slow moving like that. You wait it out, then you play it later. Kind of like sometimes when you get birds and touch with Houston. Houston's the same way. Slow pace, slow it down. They're going to bleed the clock. What do you hope for with Houston? They get off to a slow start. Number drops, jump in. Those are the way you play teams like that because they'll slowly pull away, mainly in the second half, where opposed to playing like an Alabama or a Kentucky that just runs up and down the floor, and the runner could be too quick. You want to jump on that game early.
Yep. Nevada coming off a buzzer beater winner there against Colorado State a couple of nights ago. So maybe they come out a little bit flat here against Fresno. You can get a much better number, to Coach's point, once that game starts here. So it is a huge weekend in college basketball. Plenty of top 25 teams in action tomorrow, but we got plenty of teams in the NBA going at it here tonight. We'll focus on the association when Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's rare in this day and age of the NBA to, miss one player and have the wheels fall off.
They're kind of hanging on to one of those final play-in tournament positions in the Eastern Conference. And there are teams like the Nets and the Bulls and the Raptors who are right in that same vicinity, who now they're looking and saying, well, if the Hawks are without a player like Trae Young, and we talk about how important he is, averaging over 26 points.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Watch the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game Time Decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two
coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
And welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on this very first Friday of March. Hard to believe, but the madness is almost upon us. And really, the back end of the regular season in the NBA with a lot of teams so still trying to figure out who's going to get that number one seed in the West. And the East, maybe not as competitive here. Although we got some great games coming up here on this Friday. Joe Raineri alongside the coach, James Young here on the Sports Grid Network. And, Coach, I love some of these games here. But number one, let me just say right off the bat, a big shout-out to the Detroit Pistons, who are no longer, Coach, I believe, the worst team in the NBA anymore. That award would go to the this team from Washington or G League, whatever they are. But the Pistons are at home getting a bunch of points here against the Cavs. Any interest? And I don't believe Mitchell's going here tonight. So can the Pistons keep it rolling and get the double-digit wins?
Shout out to the Detroit Pistons, the Washington Wizards. Maybe you should do a magic spell and make your season disappear. That's how bad you guys are. I don't know what else to say about them. I mean, what does Charles Barkley say? They are flat out terrible. That's how bad they are. But listen, I watched that Knick game versus Detroit. And by the way, shout out to office linebacker Dante DiVincenzo, the big ragu, with running over Asor Thompson. But to me, the line is dropped. But check around. 7.5 you can find in some books on this game. A Cleveland Cavaliers team that's ready, not lost, not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, but 7 straight against the spread, folks, versus a Detroit Pistons team that's playing better. Won 3 in a row against the spread. Folks, I'm going for it. Detroit basketball plus the points. Ready, folks? With a sprinkle on the money line.
Oh, he did not. Did he just? He did. He went with the money line. Yes. By the way, Donovan Mitchell was just ruled out. So that would explain the drop here in the spread. But I still think it's a great opportunity for the Pistons to keep it rolling here. I am not seeing Luka Doncic on the injury report anymore. He was questionable for most of the day. I'm going to guess he is a go here tonight for the Dallas Mavericks on the road in Boston here. Still hovering around 9, I think, 238 maybe as a total in this one here, Coach. There should be points. Unless I'm missing something, the over feels real tempting here. But how would you approach this game?
Well, I would approach this game with saying this. Boston is getting the ultimate respect of the book. And I would argue this could be too much respect for the book. I do think Boston wins the game. I just think 9.5 points to a team in Dallas and a Luka Doncic that can get hot. I mean, that guy's he gets air fryer hot. He gets going quick. And then there's another guy, what's his name? Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, who will be burning sage, marijuana, whatever he wants up there. He'll be burning something there. But Kyrie, who got off to a slow start last game versus Toronto, starting to heat up, averaging 27.7 points per game in the month of February. Too many points. I'm going to go with the Dallas Mavs plus the points tonight.
Woo! I kind of like where you're rolling with that, Coach. I'll take them points, too. I'm still going to take the over because I still don't believe Dallas is going to play any defense, but should be a good one there. What are we doing here, Coach? I mean, this Golden State team is fighting left and right here. A great game last night on a depleted Knicks team. They ended up getting it done. Wiggins is out again, shocker, but they got Chris Paul back. And dare I say, the idea of Chris Paul and Klay Thompson coming off the bench, all of a sudden we don't have to worry about those Steph minutes off the court. Like, my goodness here, could they have stumbled onto something?
Yeah, and they stumbled onto a couple of guys, especially Klay Thompson, who was in a contract year. So someone that wants to get that one last paycheck, and he already knows it. Folks, I think this is the funny line of the night, right? I know they're on a back-to-back. I get it. But Golden State has won 8 out of the last 10 games. I think they're 2 games out of the loss column of getting out of the play-in tournament. So that becomes big. Going against a Toronto team, granted, they've won 3 out of the last 4, but I look at them and they give 136 points to Dallas. They struggle against guards who can score. To me, I'm not touching with the line. I'm just going to go straight up. I'm going to take the money line here with the Golden State Warriors. I think they pull this out. Give me the Warriors on the money line tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you. It also feels like another game we should probably maybe look to the over in this one here. And now we got another interesting spot, I believe, back-to-back here for the Milwaukee Bucks on the road against the Bulls here. 4.5 is what we're seeing, 222.5, somewhere in that ballpark there. I'm still waiting for confirmation. It looks like Middleton for sure is going to be out in this one here. And then, of course, Chicago is hoping Caruso will play. He's still listed as questionable. But it's, not a great spot for Milwaukee. 3rd and 4 nights here. Rested Bulls team. How do you approach this one, Coach?
Oh, okay, who the hell they're rested? Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen ain't showing up to play tonight. And listen, at the end of the day, Joe, we talked about this. You and I have talked about this a lot. The pressure on Doc Rivers is immense, right? 3-7 before the All-Star break, right? All of a sudden, this team, and Kevin and I talked about a lot of this show on this show too, we jumped on that win total for Milwaukee to go over. Well, you know what, Joe? They're off to a good start here. And I think this is a spot where they get busy again. I do love Milwaukee minus the points because they have a lot to play for. And think about this. If I think Detroit could possibly beat Cleveland, right? Then you have Milwaukee in the 3 slot, if I'm not mistaken, and that will put them 1 game behind them for the 2 seed. Milwaukee has a lot to play for now. Give me the Milwaukee Bucks minus the points. Was 3.5 up to 4.5.
All right, liking that. Well, Coach, one place we will not get any points here tonight is going to be in Memphis and Portland. But I learned earlier today, this is just the 5th game, Coach, this year in which the total closes 210 or less. It's 2 and 2, 2 to the over, 2 to the under. We talk about those crazy totals and how little would have to go wrong in order for it to go under. You know how little would have to go right to get 210 points in tonight's game? I mean, we're not talking about 2 teams that don't exactly run up and down the court, but it's 207 points, I guess, for a reason tonight. But boy, is that tough to sweat out an under in that one.
It really is. But God, I mean, here's the worst part. You got to sit through that game and watch it. I mean, that's a part. That's a part. Did we just change the bet to how many people over under going to watch that whole game and sweat that bet out? I will pass it. But you know who I will not pass on? I keep on doing this. Brooke Lopez over 4.5 rebounds. This guy burns me every time I take him.
You never win that. You never win that.
But hear me out, folks. 5 out of the last 7 games he's gone over this versus Chicago. The guy is 7 foot 2,000 feet tall. He's got to go against Vucevic, who's one of the better offensive rebounders. I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm going to go Brooke Lopez over 4.5 rebounds. And I'm going to go one more. Drew Holiday over 12.5 points. Now, they go with Joe was saying before. There could be a lot of points in this game. Well, are Luka or Kyrie strong defenders? No, they're not at all. They're going to be focused on scoring. So maybe Drew gets busy a little bit, maybe a steal transition dunk, right? Make a three, pull up or two, get to the foul line. Drew Holiday, over 12.5 points tonight.
Ooh, look, you're going to be eating that Kung Pao chicken later, Coach. Scream all you're going to be. Look, damn you, Lopez! Damn you every time with that guy.
I know it. I know
every time.
It's like I'm sitting there saying to myself, like, okay. And you got to think about this, folks. The guy's 7'1". He's supposedly one of the best defensive players in the NBA. And I'm going to be, I mean, maybe I should have done the Portland-Memphis game. That would have been a better game to sweat out. I got to sweat out Brook Lopez, 4.5 rebounds. Nikola Vucevic, I have a big favor. Please do not stand at the three-point line. Hang around the basket. Let Brook Lopez get 4.5 rebounds. Because, folks, I'm on betting about the rim tomorrow between 1 and 3. I know I'm on with Scotty Farrell, and I will not get a ton of words in. I will say this. If Brook Lopez does not get 5 rebounds tomorrow, I'm announcing it right now. Your Big Dummy Award is going to James Young for taking Brook Lopez over 4.5 rebounds.
I can't believe you're going to do it here, Coach. I can't. All right, before we get you out of here, Coach, Indiana or New Orleans here tonight? We just watched Indiana win this game. At home is a 4.5-point favorite. Now they're getting 5.5 on the road.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go with the Pelicans. I'm going to go with the home team here. Minus the points, 5.5. I think they find a way. Zion, are you going to play tonight? I need you.
That's a good point there. Coach James Young, enjoy the Kung Pao, my friend. Game Time Decisions continues next.
There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's rare in this day and age of the NBA to, miss one player and have the wheels fall off.
They're kind of hanging on to one of those final play-in tournament positions in the Eastern Conference. And there are teams like the Nets and the Bulls and the Raptors who are right in that same vicinity, who now they're looking and saying, well, if the Hawks are without a player like Trae Young, and we talk about how important he is, averaging over 26 points.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Watch the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game Time Decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this March 1st here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri as we welcome in our good friend Mark Zinno here on this Friday here. You know, the madness is almost upon us here. We had to wait an extra day this year because of leap year, but we are in March, which means, and it's kind of crazy, like regular season over tonight for a couple of the mid-major conferences. Sun Belt finishing up. Their tournament starts Tuesday. Atlantic Sun starts Monday. I mean, this is it, and we're off and running here in college basketball, that much closer to March Madness. And I asked Coach this, too. It feels like, and everyone remembers the Fairleigh Dickinson beating Purdue, right? Some of the upsets we had last year, FAU, but FAU was like an 7-8, so let's not get crazy. But it feels like there might not be a whole lot of chalk when it's all said and done in that, Elite Eight Final Four this year. This whole season has had that kind of vibe here. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the odds to win the national title here are pretty wide open at this point, right? I mean,
yeah.
Houston would get my bet. I can't bet Connecticut because I haven't seen a repeat champion since, carry the two, 06-07 with Florida.
Crazy.
So it's just, it happens, we're seeing something we haven't seen in the better part of 20 years. Do you want to bet Purdue to do what Virginia did after losing by a 16 seed? I think they have some holes. I think Arizona has some holes, although I love the value I'm getting at 13-1. But I think that there's a team, and for me, I look at the other Big East teams. I look at Marquette. I think they have a great chance. We'll see what they're made of tomorrow, as they have to go on the road to Creighton and steal a win, which I think that they can do. Creighton is another team at 31-1 right now. We're looking at the FanDuel Sportsbook. I mean, there's going to be a team that has some pretty long odds right now as we start to get into conference tournament that's going to make the Final Four. I think that, you're going to be sitting there looking pretty going, I got a ticket in my hand that presents me some value here to hedge in certain situations.
So we've got more than usual here tonight on the card on Friday. Usually we got like 12 or 13, and one of them's usually Siena, and everyone laughs and everyone bets against them. But we got to, obviously got to wrap up the season here. Certainly in the Sun Belt, a lot of teams in action here tonight. What game stood out to you the most here on this card tonight?
Joe, I went to the Metro Atlantic where Siena plays, and I took Niagara here, -2, as they're at home hosting the Rider Bronx, who have won 4 straight. They've covered them all. They've been bad on the road, going 4-12 straight up. They allow almost 78 points a game on the road and only score 70. The Purple Eagles are the better shooting team here, for hitting 47.3% of their shots from the field. That number goes up to over 48% at home. They're averaging 77.5 points at home. So the numbers are starting to work in our favor. But the Bronx have the best player in the MAC, in Mervyn James. The Purple Eagles held him to 8 points in the first matchup. So I think that they can contain him pretty well. Niagara hits 76% of their free throws at home this year. Purple Eagles have played 3 straight home games. They're coming back home. In the situation this year where they've been on the road for 3 straight road games, the next game they're 3-0 against the number here. The Buffalo trip, for those who follow the Metro Atlantic, where you play Niagara and Canisius in back-to-back games on a Friday and a Sunday, is always a tough trip for these teams when it's later in the year and teams are tired and they're injured and they start to get towards the end of the tournament here, the end of the regular season here, rather. It makes it even harder. Niagara still has a shot at the top seed. They've got wins over Quinnipiac and Fairfield in their back pocket, but they're also vying for a top 5 seed, which gets them a bye out of the first round here. A loss would drop Niagara to 6 with 2 more to play. So I think the motivation is absolutely here for the Purple Eagles. A short number, I laid it with Niagara -2.
Ooh, I kind of like it here. Well, and this is that time of year, right? Down the stretch here, we got some teams that have either already solidified their spot in their conference tournament, or you got one shot here, guys, and you gotta finish strong here. And there is, of course, we've got Dayton in action here tonight. A lot of eyes are going to be on that one. I don't know which Dayton team shows up half the time. That's the problem I have with Dayton.
I mean, I stayed off the game, but I can't get out of my head that I think Dayton is objectively the much better team here than Loyola. I know Loyola does some good things. They defend the perimeter well, and they're good inside, but I don't think that Loyola is in the same class as Dayton, and it's hard to take road teams this year. It's been really hard. I think more than I can remember in recent years, the home-road splits have been so dynamic in every conference along the way. It doesn't matter what the level of the conference is. So it's hard to take a road team here. I'm going to sit back and watch this one, but I think Dayton is the better team, and I would play Dayton tonight.
They failed to cover 3 of the last 4. How in the hell they lost to George Mason last week and then blew out Davidson is beyond me. But what happened? Loyola, this team was 6-5 when we got to December. They've been 14-3 since. I don't know what they're drinking. I don't know what Sister Jean's doing there. I don't know what's going on with Loyola. But they are a team that seems destined to upset here, and I'm with you. I kind of just avoided the game because I don't trust Dayton. I also don't trust Nevada laying over 2 touchdowns tonight. In Fresno. Fresno is. I mean, Nevada is not a team that shoots the 3. So they're the idea of a blowaway kind of situation in a game, they really just want to win and get the hell out of there. It feels like way too many points for me here with this one tonight.
Yeah, again, Nevada won 4 in a row, 3 of them on the road, no less.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things after those road trips that are really successful. They won back-to-back road games against San Jose State and Colorado State, which it's tough to play in Colorado State, right? The pit where they play is a very, very tough building to play in. Fresno's lost 4 in a row, including an overtime loss to Utah State their last time out. I'm with you that I think 14 is too many points. I always say this, and if you want to look at another way to dissect this game, I always cut these games in half. My old adage of if they ain't covering early, they ain't covering late. Like Fresno doesn't really have the offense that if Nevada is up by 10 1/2, I don't know that Fresno fights their way back in it late. I just feel like Nevada would start to pull away here. And it's one of those things where there's still a possibility that if Nevada's only up by 5 or 6 1/2 and Fresno covers the first half, that they could pull away late and still end up covering the number. I typically cut games like this in half. I'm going to take Fresno in the first half. But this is a game where I just think, in general, 14 1/2, way too many points. I think Nevada kind of lets their foot off the gas pedal. They got one more game this weekend. I think it's against Boise. They finish up the regular season against, and it's not like it's an incredibly tough match. I'm sorry. It is an incredibly tough matchup with Boise State. But, this is one of these spots here towards the end of the year that I look at it and go, I don't want to be laying this big of a number here.
Yeah, I'm with you. And they just came off of that game against Colorado State where they won it at the buzzer. I thought it was going to go to overtime. So what are you going to get from Nevada? I mean, that's the whole thing here. Maybe a look past, but 13.5, 14.5 points, late night game there on this limited card tonight in college basketball makes it interesting. A ton of NBA action with even more interesting spots here. And talk about late night. I'll start late and work our way back here. I can't think of anything I trust less than the Clippers having to win by margin or score enough friggin' points in this one to get this thing up and over the total as well. So what are you thinking of the Clippers? Is this a get-right spot or against Washington?
I mean, here's the thing about the Clippers that you have to understand. They don't care about the regular season at this point. Like, this is too veteran of a team. After you obviously get through, Kawhi and Paul George together, you have Harden, you have Westbrook, you have a really kind of veteran-laden team. As long as they're in the top 4, I don't think they care about winning games by margin. So they're just going to play and win. So to lay this many points is really, really tough. I'll tell you what I did with this game here, Joe. I just looked to the prop market. Washington is the worst team in the NBA when it comes to rebounding on the defensive side. They allow nearly 49.5 rebounds per game to opponents. They allow the most rebounds to centers in the NBA at over 18 a game. Now, I have here Zubac with his points and rebounds over 21.5. Zubac, the best rebounder on the Clippers, averaging 9.5 a game. His rebound number was at 8.5. It was juiced. So I looked to the points and rebounds here because the Wizards also allow the most points to centers in the NBA at 26.8. Last night, Anthony Davis had 40 and 15. So Zubac's gone over this number in 3 of his last 4 when it comes to points and rebounds at 21.5. The juice was a little bit less. The only concern, Zubac might not even play. So because he was ill, he had an illness, missed the last game. If he comes back tonight, I think he's in a good spot here against a bad rebounding team, against a bad defensive team that played last night in an overtime game against the Lakers. So you might have a little bit of an edge here with Zubac grabbing some points and boards. I went over his points and rebounds, 21.5.
Yeah, it's I'm still waiting to hear on Paul George and Zubac in this one here, but there's one thing that we know for sure is that the Washington Wizards now are officially the worst team in the NBA. Kudos to Detroit, who we just learned here. In fact, tonight, I think Donovan Mitchell's not going for the Cavs, and now all of a sudden it's down to 6.5 here for Detroit. We're not ready to crown them here, but no Donovan Mitchell makes the Cleveland Cavaliers a little less potent, doesn't it?
If you only have to lay 6.5 against the Wizards, I don't care who's in the lineup. I mean, against the Pistons, rather. I don't care who's in the lineup. You probably just lay the 6.5. Now, full disclosure again, Joe, last night when it comes to taking bad teams, you know me. I've had no problem taking bad teams. I had the Wizards last night, plus 9.5, and they covered. So I don't know if I like this spot for Detroit against this short of a number, just because offensively, they're not good. Like, they have to score if you want them to end up covering this number here. And Cleveland is still a very sound defensive team across the board. They're not sound because they have Donovan Mitchell. They're sound because they play defense for 48 minutes. It's just the style that they play. So I think you're actually catching a nice number here with Cleveland if you wanted to take it, even with it being on the road. Not a spot where I would play Detroit here. I think it's Cleveland or pass.
I'm kind of with you. The market overall reacts when the star is missing a game, and this might have moved way too much here tonight. It does look like Doncic is a go here tonight. So Luka in, Kyrie in, Dallas, no real major injuries for the Celtics. Feels like this is going to be the most fun game of the night. I don't think it's going to be a defensive battle where you lean in one way or the other.
Well, here's what I know about this. Boston's laying, 9 or 10 now? I think it came down to 9. Boston, 27-3 at home straight up, just 15-13 against the number. Now, the Celtics have laid double digits at home 16 times this year. They are 9-7 against the number in those spots. However, the Mavericks have been an underdog of 6 or more 5 times this year. They've lost them all and only covered 1. Not a spot that I want to play the Mavericks here, even with the number being as big as it is. Again, one of these games I'd cut in half. If I have to lay less than 2 possessions here, if I get 6 or less in the first half, I didn't even check the number to be honest with you. But if you're laying 6 or less or 5.5 with a 9-point spread, I'd play the Celtics in the first half. If somehow the Mavericks are proving that they can hang in this game, I feel like they're going to hang in it for the whole game. But if they get down early, I don't know defensively that they're going to be able to slow Boston down at home.
Do you think the Pacers can go back-to-back? They beat them, New Orleans, at home, and now they're catching, 5.5 on the road to the Pelicans, who I would imagine would like to get one back here tonight.
Joe, another game I cut in half here. Pelicans -2.5. I got it early in the first half. Pelicans have a plus 7.9 point differential in the first half at home this year, scoring 61 points, only allowing 53. They got dealt to a bad start last night, 40-24 in the first quarter. They will get back early here and cover the first half number.
Ooh, first half it is. All right, we'll wrap it up. Coming back, Game Time Decisions here on the Grid.
There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's rare in this day and age of the NBA to, miss one player and have the wheels fall off.
They're kind of hanging on to one of those final play-in tournament positions in the Eastern Conference. And there are teams like the Nets and the Bulls and the Raptors who are right in that same vicinity, who now they're looking and saying, well, if the Hawks are without a player like Trae Young, and we talk about how important he is, averaging over 26 points.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Just watched the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
this
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in as we look to close out this hour of Game Time Decisions. Much more still to come here. Plenty more basketball to talk about. But first, we do have a same game parlay on the card here tonight, and nobody better to lay it out for us than our good friend Davis Maddox. So, Davis, what's on tap for tonight?
All right, guys, we have got another same game parlay. Over on the FanDuel Sportsbook, we are targeting the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. They are traveling to play at the Chicago Bulls, so a little rivalry there. We are going to take the Bucks minus 4 points in this game. We're also going to take the over on 221.5. The Bucks offense finally is coalescing. 119 points, 123 points, 111 points in their last three games. They actually have won 4 games in a row under new coach Doc Rivers. We are going to take Damian Lillard to score 25 or more points in this game. That is actually slightly above his seasonal average. I like this matchup for him against the smaller backcourt of the Bulls. Alex Caruso nursing an ankle injury right now. And then to juice it up, we are going to take DeMar DeRozan to score 20 or more points in this game as well, just to get a nice little fourth leg in there and correlate it with the over. This 4-leg same game parlay is going to give us plus 681 odds, Bucks minus 4, over 221.5. DeMar DeRozan to score 20 or more points, and Damian Lillard to score 25 or more points. Good luck tonight, everybody.
All right, Davis, we appreciate that. And yes, the Bucks taking on the Bulls, one of a few games here tonight where maybe the contrarian bettors might be getting ready to put a few bucks down here. There's a couple of spots in here, a couple of more games we're going to break down for you as we get ready for another hour of Game Time Decisions. And we got a huge weekend in college basketball. And let's not forget, oh, yeah, spring training off and running. Major League Baseball is almost upon us. So a lot to get to. Make sure you come back and join us here as Game Time Decisions continues in just a minute here on the Grid. All right, you miss us? We are back here as Game Time Decisions rolls on here, another hour on the SportsGrid Network. A very happy Friday to you now. We are in the month of March. It's kind of hard to believe, but March 1st, 2024 is here, which means the madness will begin soon enough. Got 24 games on the slate tonight in college hoops, getting ready to tip off. Plenty in the NBA. In fact, couple of more games will run down if you're just joining us here on this Friday. Joe Raineri alongside Mark Zinno here. And Zin, I wanted to get your thoughts on a couple of more games here in the association. And we'll start with those Milwaukee Bucks, who second of a back-to-back. They've beaten the Sisters of the Poor since the All-Star break, and everyone seems to have crowned them now the Kings of the East. I think we need to settle down on that just a little bit, but the Chicago Bulls have had a lot of success against them so far this year, and no Middleton here tonight. The Bucks 3-4 nights. Any chance you think the Bulls are able to hang here with the Bucks?
What a stinky number for Milwaukee. Only been laying 4.5 to one of the worst offensive teams and the worst shooting team in the league, in the Chicago Bulls. Run away from this number if you ask me. I'm not laying 4.5 with Milwaukee in this spot. It's just not. Milwaukee is too inconsistent. I know that they've started to come on lately, and that's what everybody's saying. You know, we've seen them now. They've won 4 straight. They've won 6 out of 8. You know, they're starting to look like the team that has a legitimate chance here to win the East again and go back to the NBA Finals. I just, the level of consistency and the defense isn't there for me. And given where they are right now, I still think this team is sort of flawed from the standpoint of with Dame, and this isn't a knock on Dame Lillard here, but they've gotten to more of like an iso ball kind of team where, you know, if they don't have Chris Middleton on the floor, their offense becomes 2 guys, and that's it. And they just don't move the ball all that well. If Middleton's playing, it's a different conversation for me, because I think he does things dynamically and forces teams to get out on the perimeter because he's such a good three-point shooter, and it certainly will make things open more for Giannis in the middle and for Dame around the rest of the perimeter. But again, from a standpoint here of laying points on the road with Milwaukee, it just doesn't feel very good. I mean, again, this is a Milwaukee team here that on the year is 11-17 ATS on the road and just 15-14 straight up. They're 4-12 against division opponents against the number. Why would you want to lay this with Milwaukee? And again, 6-18 ATS, Joe, against teams with a losing record. Like, you're not supposed to be that bad against the number. And I get it. They're probably laying bigger numbers and not covering them. But this feels like the ultimate sucker's bet by odds makers to get every public schmuck on Milwaukee laying 4.5 to watch the Bulls win this thing by 1.
Yeah, and I was pretty impressed with the way the Bulls beat the Cavs last game out here. So it's not like they're going to be rolling over for Milwaukee here tonight, getting points at home. Let's go north of the border here quick, because another team that seems to be rolling and everything seems to be coming up. They learned that they're going to lose Wiggins again for an indefinite amount of time, the Golden State Warriors. Then all of a sudden, you know, they make that announcement, but Chris Paul is back now. So they lose one, they get help back. A lot of things are going the way with the Dubs, including covering 10 of their last 12. It's only 3, I think, here against a Toronto team that, let's face it, is probably making tea time here. There is no postseason for the Toronto Raptors. It's rebuild time. It feels like we should lay this number with Golden State. How are you looking at it?
Again, Warriors beat the Knicks last night pretty soundly at MSG. So they're on a back-to-back, but they are the best team in the NBA on back-to-backs this year. 8-4 straight up and against the number. Again, best mark in the NBA. You just mentioned it. 11-3 ATS over their last 14. 6-1 against the number against teams in the Atlantic Division this season. So all the trends go Golden State's way. I think here's what you really need to worry about more than anything is that after the game last night, by the time they get, you know, out of the locker room and everything else, it's after 11. By the time they get to the airport, it's probably close to midnight. Although it's only a short flight, you know, about an hour flight to Toronto, then guess what? They got to go through another hour of customs getting there. They probably didn't get back to the hotel till after 2 a.m. in the morning. No morning shoot around here. Could they have tired legs tonight? Maybe. I would worry about them starting fast and then fading in the second half if that's what's going to happen, especially if Toronto's keeping it close here. Certainly lean Golden State minus the 3, the way that they've been playing and the fact that they are, playing against a Toronto team that is a corpse of an NBA team at this point in time. That's really my only concern. Again, stayed off the game. A lot of the trends favor Golden State. They're a play-on team right now, given the way that they've played as of late, and maybe it's Draymond coming back. I don't know. Whatever you want to say it is for Golden State. But they're fighting their way into this thing, or at least try to get out of that play-in tournament to get their way in here. So I think they have a lot of motivation, and I would lean Golden State minus the 3.
Yeah, I don't see. Golden State has enough experience that they win games like this. We just learned De'Aaron Fox out for the Sacramento Kings. Minnesota Timberwolves, it does look like Anthony Edwards is a go here. There's no, in any scenario, to back the Sacramento Kings without De'Aaron Fox, is there? Unless this number hits double digits, it's kind of Minnesota or pass, no?
I stared at Minnesota last night and again all this morning and wanted to lay the 6.5. I think it was the right side, even with De'Aaron Fox playing, and I knew the possibility that he wouldn't. And you look at what the Kings have, that'll give him 5 days off since his last game. So if he's a little banged up, because they have 3 days off before their next one. So Timberwolves 22-6 straight up at home, very, very good. Just 14-13-1 against the number, though. Kings 19-13 ATS on the road, 12-8 against the number as a dog. Now the T-Wolves have won 7 of 8, but have failed to cover 3 of their last 4. It's a little bit of a big number. I mean, obviously it's going to balloon up now. If you didn't get it at 6.5, it's probably 8.5 or 9 at this point in time without De'Aaron Fox. So you missed the best of the number. Can't endorse that. Maybe you just take Minnesota in the first half and try to get this thing under 2 possessions, and Minnesota can get out to an early lead here with their defense doing most of the work.
It's amazing to me. You got Minnesota, you got Denver, you got OKC. Who wins the West? Who gets that number 1 seed, and who needs it the most, Zin?
Well, I think it's either Minnesota or OKC. These are 2 young teams who this matters to. It doesn't matter to Denver. They don't care if they finish first. It doesn't matter to Phoenix. They don't care. It doesn't matter to LA, the Clippers, that is. They don't care. This is what young teams do. Remember the Memphis Grizzlies a couple of years ago? They were always fighting for first place. They wanted the number 1 seed. What happened? They got eliminated very quickly because all these other teams are more experienced. They understand the NBA postseason better. I mean, look, I've said this repeatedly. If Oklahoma City ends up winning the West, and let's just say they're playing, Golden State in the first round as the 8 seed, Golden State's the favorite to win that series. There's no doubt about that. So I think it's Minnesota or OKC. I don't think anybody else really has a desire to win it other than those 2.
Yeah, I don't think it's certainly the Clippers and Denver. Push comes to shove, not going to lay it all out there to try and get the number 1 seed. Just not going to happen there. Mark Zinno, listen, best of luck with the plays tonight and this weekend. We appreciate it. Game Time Decisions continues next on the Grid.
There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's rare in this day and age of the NBA to, miss one player and have the wheels fall off.
They're kind of hanging on to one of those final play-in tournament positions in the Eastern Conference. And there are teams like the Nets and the Bulls and the Raptors who are right in that same vicinity, who now they're looking and saying, well, if the Hawks are without a player like Trae Young, and we talk about how important he is, averaging over 26 points.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Just watched the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game Time Decisions on the SportsGrid Network. Welcome to March. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. Joe Raineri, and I am joined by our good friend George Kurtz here tonight, ready to roll. Just 3 games, George, on the ice in the NHL here. Another interesting scheduling by the NHL. It's kind of been all over the map, but now that we are here in March, right? I think the trade deadline is, a week away. So there are some teams, and we've talked about it this week, there are some teams that maybe there's a little uneasiness. Am I going to be here? Am I not going to be here? Over the next week, guys trying to figure out what's going on. So we kind of established some of the buyers here, but some of these sellers, I don't know. Maybe we're taking a look and seeing maybe some fading some of these teams that have guys that just quite honestly won't be there in a week from now.
Absolutely. And what did we hear today was the big news. Now, you and I talked about this on, I think on Wednesday's show, about the Calgary Flames and Jacob Markstrom, right? That they were close to a deal with the Devils, but the Devils didn't want to take on salary. What did we hear today? The Devils said, forget that. We'll take on the salary now. We want the player. So does that rekindle those talks here? See could Markstrom find his way to the New Jersey Devils? I know people are going to bring up, Calgary said yesterday that they're not going to trade Markstrom. They're going to keep him. Everybody's lying right now. Okay, how can you tell a GM's lying when his lips move? Okay, so everyone's lying here trying to get the best deal possible. See what's going to happen there. I think Pittsburgh is in a tough spot, right? You have Crosby, you have Malkin, Letang, Carlson, all these veteran players. You want to go for it, but you're not in the playoffs cup right now. Even if you get in, you're not winning the cup. This weekend, you're in Alberta. That's Calgary and Edmonton. If they don't get a minimum of 3 points, and that's not going to be easy to get at all, they're likely trading out. They're likely trading Jake Gensel anyway, right, who won't play. Maybe he returns about the deadline, maybe a little bit after there, but they can't re-sign him, and they know that. So he's likely gone. He'll be traded here. Riley Smith, former Vegas Golden Knight, he could be traded as well here. So it's a very important weekend for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Like I said, I think they need 3 out of 4 in the Battle of Alberta there, or else they're going to trade players away.
Yeah, I mean, there's Ottawa's another team, Tarasenko, maybe a reunion there. There's a whole lot of Whole lot of teams right now. We certainly established who some of the buyers are going to be, but some of the sellers, keep an eye on them as we head into this weekend here. We're just a week away from that trade deadline here. But a couple of games tonight on the ice, Kurtz. I think they're underway already in, who's playing? Washington, I believe, was on tap against Philly here tonight. If you'd have told me at this point in the season we're going to get to March and Philly is battling for a number 5 seed, I'd have laughed at you, Kurtz. I'd have been like, whatever you're drinking, pass it over here, because there's no way Philly is going to be actually contending at this point in the season. And yet, here we are, and they just scored up 1-0 here in the first.
Yeah, Philadelphia's a big-time success story this year. Once again, they're not going anywhere in the playoffs. They're not that good a team. But as you said, no one thought they'd be in a playoff spot right now. All right, nobody thought that. If there was rebuilding, Tortorella's got work to do here. Well, he's done the work. Right now, they're in a tough spot too, Joe, because it wouldn't surprise me if they know they're not going anywhere. They'd like to make the playoffs, but they're not talking about additions. They're actually talking about selling, not selling major pieces. But Sean Walker is a player that a lot of teams want, and I think Philadelphia might move him by the deadline. I'm on the under in this game. Didn't have Philadelphia Washington as far as a side there. It's a huge, important game for both teams. Philadelphia, they're in a spot. Washington trying to get into a spot here. It was once again, sort of like Pittsburgh. Do you want to trade away when you have Alexander Ovechkin? So it's hard to get a gauge either way on this game here. But I just don't trust either team here, but I was on the under.
Yeah, interesting. A quick goal there, too. 15-minute mark right now with the Capitals and the Flyers. The Ottawa Senators also underway against the Coyotes here. It kind of felt like maybe we could get some goals in this one, possibly an over. Were you leaning one way or the other as far as the side? I mean, both teams pretty much identical records here at this point.
I think Arizona's lost about 28 games in a row, so you're not betting on Arizona.
Yeah.
I mean, could they snap it tonight? Sure. Ottawa's a bad team. But Arizona played last night. Ottawa. I mean, bottom line is I'm on the Senators, okay? Small play on the Senators here. Like you, I read it as an over as well. I think goals are coming tonight. But this is one of those games where they're both out of it. But you sort of mentioned here, players got to be a little bit uneasy. Are they going to be there with this team in a week? They're going to be traded. You mentioned Tarasenko. Jacob Chikrin has been mentioned as well, that he could be on his way out here. And pretty much everything on Arizona that's not nailed down could be traded here. So they could make some moves as well. Dumb with the defenseman being an interesting guy to move by the deadline. So both teams got to be a little bit on edge here. Bottom line is, listen, it's Vejmelka versus Forsberg. You don't have a good goaltending matchup. Neither team plays a whole that good on defense, but they can score goals. So, yes, I was on the over.
Yeah, I mean, the Senators have actually, I think they beat Vegas and Dallas at home here. So it's not like they're not capable of putting in some goals here in the net and getting us up and over at that particular point. We do have one late game here tonight, Kurtz, with those Devils you were talking about taking on Anaheim here. It's interesting. I mean, Devils kind of trying to load up here and do whatever they can do to make a run here. I mean, what is the ceiling of this Devils team, do you think, here as constructed?
As currently constructed, I mean, you're not winning a playoff round with Nico Dolas or Vanacek or Schmid.
No, right?
Whoever you put in net there. It's not happening. All right, so they have to get a goaltender. I think what bothers me about the Devils, when they wouldn't pick up the contract of Marshall salary, they want the Calgary to eat that, is why are you making such a big deal of this? You need a goalie. And Marshall has terms, so you'd have a goalie next year as well. It would sort of solve your problem here. If you don't get a deal done by the deadline here, you're still searching for the goalie in the offseason. It's what killed you last year when Vanacek melted and fell apart here. You need a goaltender here. So as currently constructed, no, they're not going very far. That being said, Joe, I'm the first person to tell you, I like Markstrom. He's a good goaltender. He's not great. And this just does not seem to be the Devils' year. They've had so many injuries. We don't know when or if they're going to get Dougie Hamilton back. Ishai has been banged up. Jack Hughes has been banged up. I mean, a lot of injuries here. So if everything goes well and they get Markstrom, sure, they can be a threat. But I don't think they're going to come out of the East one way or the other. They're not coming out of the East to represent in the Stanley Cup.
So what is this an over spot here, hovering around that 6.5? I mean, they beat up, what was it, San Jose the other night pretty well there. What are we thinking here? Score fest here tonight at 10 o'clock?
I don't know if I think it's score fest here. Anaheim, I mean, they've got some talented offensive players. They can score some goals, but you would need the Devils to do the heavy lifting here. 5-2? It's certainly a possibility here. It's only 3 games tonight. I love parlays, and I can't find one with another team. I'm not betting on Ottawa to beat anybody. I'm not betting Arizona. I said Washington Philadelphia was too close to call as well here. So you can't lay with 275. You could lay the 1.5. I don't mind that. I think they will win by 2+. No issues with that. Or you go with one of my favorite plays here, which is Devils to win, and find yourself an anytime goal scorer. The problem is there's no Austin Matthews here, right? There's no Nathan McKinnon here. Yeah, so it's a little tougher here. But I think right now I'm leaning towards Nico Hischier. Hischier, anytime goal, Devils to win. It was plus 219, I believe, last I saw. Maybe you want to go Jack Hughes. Maybe you want to go Jesper Bratt. You won't get the same price. It'll be plus 140, whatever it might be here. But you can go that direction as well. But the safe play is probably just lay the 1.5.
Lay it here tonight. Nice win finally by the Ducks last night against who else? The Sharks. They put 6 in net last night. Maybe they can continue to roll that over and get us this over here tonight against the Devils. That's going to be the 10 o'clock Eastern time. The late game, just 3 games, loaded slate tomorrow there in the NHL. And George, we appreciate the time, man. Best of luck with these plays tonight. Game Time Decision continues next here on the Grid.
There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's rare in this day and age of the NBA to, miss one player and have the wheels fall off.
They're kind of hanging on to one of those final play-in tournament positions in the Eastern Conference. And there are teams like the Nets and the Bulls and the Raptors who are right in that same vicinity, who now they're looking and saying, well, if the Hawks are without a player like Trae Young, and we talk about how important he is, averaging over 26 points.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Watch the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game Time Decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here. It is Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Thanks so much for joining us here on this March 1st, this Friday. And in addition, of course, to the NBA and college hoops, NHL, we got ourselves a PGA tournament going on right now, not too far from my studios here in South Florida, as the Cognizant Classic is 2 rounds in, and nobody better to help cash tickets here than our good friend Brady Cannon. And Brady, what a day today was here. I think it played 2 strokes harder here today than we got yesterday on Thursday. And early in the morning groups were great, but right around that noon time frame, that middle group, that wind starts blowing here at PGA National and kind of changed the direction here of some of the rounds for guys. And then it cleared up towards the later part of the day. Then we started to see some birdies with pretty much our leader here, Bud Cauley. And I'm pretty sure you had him on all your tickets here at 11 under par, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I bet Bud Cauley every week. You know, this guy has never won on tour before, but, you know, it does make a little bit of sense that he had some success here. He was born not too far up the coast in Daytona Beach, and he resides here now currently in Palm Beach Gardens. So this is like his home course. He knows this place as well as anybody. But, yeah, he is a rare occurrence to see at the top of the leaderboard. We'll see how long it lasts. And what makes me worry about Bud Cauley a little bit is he's getting it done with the putter and around the greens. Now, he's hitting greens in regulation. He's hit 30 out of 36 greens in regulation. I think he's, you know, top 5 in the field in that regard. So that's great if he can keep that going. But he's number 1 in the field in strokes gained putting. And that's not really necessarily where you want to be at the halfway point. You want to be there on Sunday, not necessarily on Friday, because a putter gets so volatile. It can get hot and cold in a minute. And for him to maintain, you know, a pace at which he's putting currently would be an outlier. So I have a feeling, you know, Bud is probably not going to get it done in the end. And part of that equation is just how many people we have on this leaderboard. You know, you've got close to 30 people inside the top 20, only 5 shots off that lead. You've got about 15 people or more inside the top 10, only 3 shots off that lead, including Rory McIlroy, Shane Lowry, and Cameron Young, and last week's winner, Jake Knapp. So, and then the rest of the names, you know, if you go all the way down, you can go to Matthew Fitzpatrick and Minwoo Lee, who are 6 shots off the pace. But, you know, in and around all those, you know, that handful of big names, there are a lot of guys like Bud Cauley who are trying to win for the very first time ever on tour. And then you throw in the fact that we're supposed to have wind again on Saturday, a steady 15-mile-an-hour breeze. And then Sunday, there's a chance of thunder showers. So the weather's still a little squirrely. You got a lot of inexperience at the top of this leaderboard. I think we're in for a doozy over the weekend, and it could go any direction.
Yeah, and then, you know, you look and you go, you don't have to go very far down the leaderboard to get, you know, of course, Rory there, who looks like he's back-to-back 67s, kind of looks like he, you know, yesterday and today, kind of working through the routine, kind of, you know, steady, great ball trajectory there. He's doing all the things right. And, you know, I know a guy like Rory, or even Cameron Young for that matter, Shane Lowry, they are praying for the wind because that will really separate those 3 guys, especially from a lot of these other names up there. And if it showed up today for a half a round and it screwed a lot of guys over who weren't used to it. But I got to think experience with the wind this weekend, will probably give us a good opportunity with the big names like Rory, Cameron Young, Shane, guys that have been there and done this.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Joe. The better players in this field want the conditions to go sideways and get rid of a lot of the guys that aren't used to that type of thing or good enough to handle that type of thing. If I was going to bet on one of these shorter priced guys at this point, I would probably take a look at Shane Lowry. He's done extremely well here in the past, has a runner-up finish a couple of years ago, maybe could have won that one. The rain all of a sudden showed up as he was trying to close that tournament out. He's got another top 5 finish. I believe his last 2 times out here was 6th place and 2nd place. So obviously he's done very well here in the past. And I think part of that is to your point. And what I'm getting at here on as far as why I would bet him, I think he's one of the best wind players in the world. And, you know, he's gotten more accustomed to the PGA Tour and the Florida conditions. You know, this guy used to years ago play exclusively in Europe, but now, you know, the last maybe decade or so, he's really become familiar with the rotation on the PGA Tour and the conditions in this part of the country. Obviously, he's a British Open champion. And so is Rory. That's another connection here with the Cognizant Classic and in the past, the Honda Classic. A lot of guys that have done well at the British Open have done well here. Ernie Els, Adam Scott, you know, Ricky Fowler's been a great Open player. Padraig Harrington, 2-time Open winner. So, you know, McIlroy's priced at like, you know, 4-1 or plus 450.
Right.
And yeah, he might win it, but that's so short with half a golf tournament left to go. And he trails by 3 on top of that. If I was going to take one of the big names, I'd probably look at Lowry. I think he's at about 12-1. And I don't think that's an awful price for a guy that has done this well at this golf course in the past.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it on Wednesday, Brady, about I think the number at that time was about 14, 15 under what the final winning score would be. I don't know that we're going to be on target for, 11 under. I mean, we're going to get to 18, 19, 20 under. I doubt that here. Are you still thinking that we're right around that 14, 15 under as a winning score?
I wouldn't be surprised, Joe. And the proposition bet before the tournament began was actually 13.5.
Oh, it's 13
so
and a half. Yep.
That looks at this point like it's going to be shattered because you've got Collie already at 11, couple more guys at 10, couple more guys at 9. But I don't know if they're going to go, more than maybe 5 shots better over the weekend because of the weather conditions. And who knows what Sunday's going to bring with the chance of showers and thunderstorms. Yep. I mean, it's possible we could even get a Monday finish. I think and I haven't looked at the forecast for Monday. I'm not sure what the conditions are there, but I think if you go into Monday, you're gonna crash that 13.5. You might get to 16, 17. But tomorrow, I don't think anybody's going to go crazy. I could see maybe, 13 being in the lead tomorrow, maybe 12. It might go backwards. You might get to 10, but we got a lot of golf tournament left. I think that's the point, with weather, inexperience, and experience at the top of the leaderboard as well. This is going to be a crazy one, I have a feeling.
Well, it certainly looks, when you look at this leaderboard, that the long shot winners who have been dominating the PGA Tour so far this year, we've talked about it a lot. Now, granted, there won't be an amateur in this one that actually wins it outright at 500 to 1.
Nick Dunlap, he might do it again, man. He made a hole in one today.
I'm just saying, there is, I look at a lot of these names. It's amazing. A lot of the DP World Tour players, a lot of the European guys dominating the top again. And, Perez is another guy. You mentioned Pavone early on Wednesday here. I mean, there are still some guys. I mean, Saturday's moving day. So who's going to go out and post the number and get it up on that on the board there and let everyone else go, it's probably going to be another big number. Outside of Rory, it looks like there's still an opportunity here to cash a big ticket.
Oh, absolutely, Joe. And, going into the weekend, if you're planning on making a few wagers tonight, I think you're still safe to, maybe make a handful of them. And I would look at Austin Eckroat. Austin Eckroat, unfortunately, I was a week early. I was on him last week, and he didn't do too much. And now here he is, one shot off the lead. But my belief last week, and it still is, this guy's a very talented player. We saw him finish 10th in the U.S. Open last year. And, that kind of speaks to his ability for ball striking, which is what you need here at PGA National. What I like about Eckroat is he's second in this field for greens in regulation and fourth for strokes gained approach, but he's 27th in strokes gained putting. So the putting's good, but it's not crazy good like Bud Colley. So if he just keeps sticking his irons the way he's doing, even if his putting stays the same, he's going to have a great chance. And if his putting gets any better, look out. But yeah, you could go, I think Jake Knapp is a possibility at 18-1. He might go 2 weeks in a row on you. Pavone, we talked about at 25-1. This guy's game looks clean right now. I think he's a factor, another European guy who's got experience with the wind. Tom Kim at 28. He's kind of under the radar there. I think he's a possibility. I mentioned I'm on Minwoo Lee. He's at 50-1. That's pretty much his pre-tournament price. I don't think he's out of it in any way. And if you're going to throw another bomb in there, Alex Noren. Noren's been a tremendous wind player throughout his career. Played a ton on the European Tour, played at Oklahoma State in college where Eckroat did, where there's a lot of wind. So you can get Noren at about 80-1. I think you can go all over the board a little bit with about 6-8 guys here and possibly cash a big number on Sunday.
I am with you, and that's what we're looking to do. Brady Cannon, appreciate the time as usual, my man. Good luck this week. We'll get
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's rare in this day and age of the NBA to, miss one player and have the wheels fall off.
They're kind of hanging on to one of those final play-in tournament positions in the Eastern Conference. And there are teams like the Nets and the Bulls and the Raptors who are right in that same vicinity, who now they're looking and saying, well, if the Hawks are without a player like Trae Young, and we talk about how important he is, averaging over 26 points.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Watch the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game Time Decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game Time Decisions on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri, joined by the man taking over at the top of the hour, Matty Peralt, here for a little in-game live primetime on this Friday. And Matty, I'm still trying to get over. It's March 1st. Like, my word, the madness is here. It'll come, it'll go. Well, baseball is just around the corner, and then we'll have 19 months of NHL playoffs and NBA playoffs, and then football is back. But kind of hard to believe that here we are getting ready for March. And you big baseball guy, you looking forward to the season starting in just a couple of weeks now?
Yeah, I'm a big sports guy, so I think I grew up in New England, so to me, I love the seasons. I love the transition. I love going from, the end of football into the beginning of the hotbed in the NBA. Then you get March Madness with college basketball. Spring training's a big deal. Yeah. I'm a Red Sox fan, so the team's going to stink this year, but I love betting on baseball. I'm on the West Coast, so it's Shohei Ohtani nonstop, Dodger. So we got that going on for us. And then we get the Masters coming up here. The countdown. We're already hearing the Jim Nantz promos running across CBS. Whenever you're watching college basketball, it's a tradition like no other. Here we go. So we got that coming up in a month. So I love this time of the year. Now, in Vegas, we get kind of like you guys in Florida, we get a lot of sun. When I was growing up in New England, March 1st, you start wondering when will the temperatures warm up and when will you start to actually feel like you're in a, not in the tundra anymore.
So true.
I know this for a lot of our East Coast listeners and our New York brethren. I know March 1st is a big calendar day because it's like, okay, we got through February. Now, no more snow, and let's get on with it with the spring.
Yeah, you need to start seeing the leaves growing on the trees. Like, I need to see some leaves, okay? Please, people. Like, that will signify we're getting a little bit closer to spring and not just go from winter to summer here. And usually when we start seeing baseball, that means we're well on our way there in a big part of this country here. But we still got to get through the end of the regular season here, certainly in the NHL as well as the NBA, because both those playoffs take forever here. And I mean, with 20 games left, 21 games left for some teams, some of these teams on the card here tonight, some teams are just making tee times and they're booking cruises, and it is what it is. Give me one of these games here tonight that you focused in on. We've got 3 underway, including your Celtics taking on the Dallas Mavericks here tonight. Were you leaning one way or the other in that one?
I think it's too heavy. 9's too many points. I took Luka over 3.5 threes for tonight. I laid a little juice where it was minus 111 at FanDuel for that. But I think Luka, he had a really poor shooting night his last time out, went 1 for 6 from behind the arc. And normally when he has a bad night, he tends to bounce back and hit a bunch of threes. And, Boston tends to protect the rim and give up 3-point shots. So I like Luka to have a big night shooting the basketball. And if I was going to take a side on it, I'd take the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, Boston just look, I'm a huge Celtics fan, and if they're not in the finals, something went horribly wrong. But these are games that they don't really – I mean, against Denver, they did this. Like the measuring stick games against the West, they know it doesn't matter. They know they won't see these guys till the finals, and it probably won't be Dallas. So I worry about Boston being focused in these games, and really they tend to kind of play with their food, and they wind up in tighter games or lose games at home. And Dallas has kind of had their number of late. So if I was going to take a side, I'd take the points. I'd take 9 with Dallas.
We were questioning whether Doncic was going to go here tonight, and they pulled him off the injury list. So it looks like he is a go. But I, for the life of me, thought this would be a number in the 240s because Dallas is not playing defense tonight. And, Tatum and Brown, they love getting off to a quick start here, and you can never count out Kyrie and Doncic. So it still feels like an over here tonight. But I had no idea why the Sixers should be a 12-point favorite over anybody. And right now, the Hornets are up 39-38, and I get it. It's the Hornets, but you still got Miles Bridges, you still got, Curry there. You've got a lot of veteran guys on that Hornets team that there's no shame in getting destroyed by the Milwaukee Bucks the last couple of games. But who in the hell are the Sixers to be laying these kinds of numbers? It's kind of head-scratching.
I would agree. I think it's a reflection of the market saying, okay, that's going to happen again. And clearly it's not so far so good. They're winning up by 4 in this one. And I looked at the number and I was like, okay, that's a trap, right? Like that feels like too easy to take the Charlotte Hornets here plus the points on the road, because you mentioned teams making tee times and planning trips to Bora Bora. The Sixers are in that boat. Okay. They know that there's no reason for Embiid to come back. There's no reason for them to really be competitive this year. It's all about next year for them already. And they've just played really poorly since Embiid has gotten hurt because they know this season's over. So, anytime you see a big number like that with Philadelphia, I think you got to take a look at the dog just simply because Philly's not blowing anybody out.
No, they are absolutely not. And the late game also feels kind of trappish, too, with the Clippers and the Wizards. Simply from the standpoint of, all right, I still don't know Paul George. Zubac, obviously, still questionable. Yes, the Wizards are terrible. They are now the worst team in the NBA. So congratulations, Detroit. You are no longer that useless. But the Clippers it feels like they kind of hit a wall here. And they're like, all right, we won back enough games to make the playoffs. And all right, we win a game. It just doesn't feel like the same urgency with the Clippers, and laying 16 with them without Paul George or Zubac. What are we supposed to do with this?
See, I can't bet this because I should have bet last night because the Lakers laying 9 was a joke. Like there was no way the LA Lakers were going to beat the Washington Wizards by double digits. And I'm kicking myself. I'm still mad. I woke up this morning mad about it because I was like, man, that was so easy. And I didn't bet it. Like you knew that was happening. The Lakers won a back-to-back. They had just had the crazy comeback, the 21 points out of LeBron against the Clippers. They saw Washington. They were like, yeah, we're going to roll the ball out and beat them. And the Wizards were like, no, we're going to play basketball. And they went to overtime. And I was like, my gosh, that was such an easy play. And I didn't make it. So I can't come back here and take them again because I should have taken them last night. Now they're going to lose by 40. If I took the Wizards tonight, they were going to lose by 40. So I was like, I can't bet this. But yes, I think 16.5 is too heavy.
They ruled out De'Aaron Fox here for the Sacramento Kings, but looks like Edwards is in for Minnesota. This is now climbing 8.5, maybe even 9. I can't play Sacramento without De'Aaron Fox. We already seen what that looks like here. And Minnesota battling for the number 1 seed. The Celtics, I think we can all agree on. Celtics going to be the number 1 seed in the East unless something ridiculous happens here. I have no idea how does Minnesota want it? Does OKC? Does Denver care? And is Minnesota really trusted that they're to win by double digits in this spot?
Look, the best play this game is the under. At home, the T-Wolves are 17-10-1 to the under. Sacramento's been a straight under team recently. They're 19-11-2 to the under on the road. Without Fox, 222, it's probably going to drop here a little bit. I think it was 225. Now it's 222. The under is the best play in this game. Sacramento's been a team that they're just not scoring a lot of points. And at home, I really do. The last game did go over against Memphis by only 1.5 points for the T-Wolves.
Wow.
I like the under in that game. Without Fox being in there, give me under 222.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you here. I mean, it's we're looking at a game, maybe a half a game separating the 3 top teams. I think we can agree, like Kawhi Leonard and company probably don't care if they're 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed. I think Denver having the number 1 seed and having teams have to go through the altitude in Denver, I think that's an advantage to them. OKC, does it real? Congratulations. You got the 1 seed. You got to take on Golden State and get bounced in the first round. Congrats. It just feels like Denver might have the inside track. And if they do get the number 1 seed, I think it's advantage Denver.
I would agree entirely. I mean, I think Denver absolutely wants to have the number 1 seed and have it go right. Their fans, their altitude. I mean, at home this year, they're 24-5. So it's really hard to play them at home. Look, for the T-Wolves and the Thunder, it's a lot of show me, right? I mean, the numbers, it's regular season. Great. You guys are pounding teams right now, but can you do it in the postseason? For the Nuggets, it's kind of the opposite. They know once they get into the playoffs, they know what it takes to win a championship. They've gone through that gauntlet before. So I don't think they care I think they'll take it, but they're not going to do anything to sacrifice health or rest to get the number 1 seed. But if it falls into their lap, they'll obviously take it. But I still think Denver's the best team in basketball. Look, I'm a Celtics guy. I think it's Denver versus Boston. I think it's going to be a chalk NBA Finals, and I just don't think Boston can beat Denver. I don't think they have any answer for Jokic, and when Murray's on and he's hitting shots, they're just the best 1-2 punch in the NBA. So I hope I'm wrong, but I just think Boston is going to have a tough time of it if they have to go to Denver and play on the road against a team that already knows they can win it all.
I agree. I think it's Denver, the number 1 seed. They lock that up. That is absolutely advantage Nuggets here. But are we counting out? Everyone seems to be back on the Milwaukee Bucks train here after their good start out of the All-Star break. They've played the Sisters of the Poor, so I don't know what we're celebrating here. But this is a tricky spot on the road against the Bulls, second of a back-to-back, 3rd and 4 nights. It feels like the number should be bigger, and yet we're at 4.5 here. What's up with the Bucks here? Are you have any faith in them to continue steamrolling teams?
None, no. And I like the under in this game a ton as well because 18-11-1, Milwaukee on the road. They're a team, last 4 games have all gone under, 4-1 over their last 5 and 8-1-1 over the last 10 for the Milwaukee Bucks to the under. Yeah, they're winning, but I'm not a huge fan. I mean, the last time a game went over was against Minnesota on the 8th of February for the Bucks. They're just playing dead under teams. And Chicago doesn't score all that much, like we know. I mean, the Bulls offensively aren't that great. So I love the under in this game at 222 tonight here for this one. Even though Chicago has gone 7-3 to the over their last 10, I still like this game to go under. I'm not laying it. I think you take the Bulls here plus the points if you have to bet a side, but I prefer dog in the under. It's how I play this game.
I'm with you there. It's amazing how they've put in a little more effort, slowed the tempo down, and unders have been cashing. Speaking of unders, it's only the 5th one all season long. You want to talk about a difference in the NBA, huh? We have a total under 210 for just the 5th time this season with Portland and Memphis, and it's at 207. Do you know how little has to go well for you to be able to get 210 points in the NBA with 2 teams that love to run up and down the court?
Joe, we've seen it this week. We've seen a 211 and a 209 this week go under. This has been a crazy 75% basic under clip for the NBA post All-Star break. And Memphis is 28-1 to the under this year. And Portland is 15-13 to the under on the road. So you just have 2 teams who don't score a lot, don't play fast, up against each other. I would still bet under. It's a crazy low number, but I can see it being like a 197 type of final.
I was going to say, could you imagine? It feels like a first 1 to 90 wins. And the amazing part is both those teams play with pace. They ain't slowing anything down, and they still can't get to 100 points. Wow, is that awful. Matty Pearl taking over top of the hour. Good luck tonight, my man. We'll close it out next.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's rare in this day and age of the NBA to, miss one player and have the wheels fall off.
They're kind of hanging on to one of those final play-in tournament positions in the Eastern Conference. And there are teams like the Nets and the Bulls and the Raptors who are right in that same vicinity, who now they're looking and saying, well, if the Hawks are without a player like Trae Young, and we talk about how important he is, averaging over 26 points.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Just watched the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game Time Decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here as we wrap up this edition of Game Time Decisions on the SportsGrid Network. We got much more still to come as in-game live. Prime time getting ready to take over and loaded slate in the NBA. We got a bunch of college hoops as well off and running here tonight with 26 games, I believe, in total. We do have couple of interesting scores so far for you as the Hornets are beating the 76ers about a minute to go before the break there, 61-56. The Cavs have dropped 63 on the Pistons. Still got 3.5 minutes to go in the first half there. It is 63-39. Cavs over the Pistons. No Donovan Mitchell. And apparently the Cavs don't care. They're going to drop 70, it looks like, in the first half. Also, Celtics on top of the Mavericks, 27-19 right now. Still 5 minutes to go in the first. Golden State and the Raptors back and forth, 21-20 in the first there. And, of course, coming up here in just a couple of minutes, you got 3 8:00 games, which will include the Pacers-Pelicans. You got the Trailblazers and the Grizzlies and what might be the best cure for insomnia on the card here tonight. And then the Kings and Timberwolves will get ready to go a little bit later. And, of course, we are looking and keeping an eye on a few of the college hoops games here tonight, which could prove to be pretty entertaining, especially when you're talking about you've got Dayton getting ready to take the court against Sister Jean and Loyola, a big Atlantic 10 battle going on there. That's coming up in the 9 p.m. Eastern time hour, and then it'll close with a little Utah State taking on Air Force and Nevada taking on Fresno State. So we got much, much more still to come here. The night is young, and we are just getting started here on the SportsGrid Network. In-game live primetime is coming up next. Game Time Decisions. I'll see you again on Monday. Good luck.